Right, so welcome everyone. What we're going to be doing today is going over some of the ESRI products and things that we have here at UCLA, and just talking a little bit more about the ESRI ecosystem, what we have, what you can expect, um, some different demos of some different software, and so we'll just be going over all of that and leaving some room for some discussion after this is all over. So, just by way of so I know, can you just give a hand raise or a green check if you've used Esri products here or have actually used our Esri Online system? Okay, a couple of you. And this will be a workshop where I'll be asking you a lot of questions of green checks and hands. So just use that. So to start off with, we have both ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Pro here at the university. So we have the option of both, and this can be a little bit confusing. So we're going to go over what we have and what your options are in terms of this. So as a quick overview, ArcGIS Online, which is what we'll be focusing on today, is our cloud-based GIS platform. This is where you can sign on wherever you are. This goes through our single sign-on system. It's browser-based. You don't actually have to install anything locally. And it works with all kinds of different things. And we'll be going over a little bit about what those are today, including Survey 123, hubs, dashboards. Everything on this is cloud hosted. So it's connected to your university account through your single sign-on. And this is really useful for really teams for using for classwork. We have a lot of people using ArcGIS Online for their courses because you don't have to install anything. You don't have to support, say, putting it on a Windows machine, which is what ArcGIS Pro requires. That's the desktop version of Esri software. This is where you can do a lot of very powerful things with it. In fact, it has a lot of licenses that are only for ArcGIS Pro that are not on ArcGIS Online, but you need to install it on a Windows computer. You can sync it with our online install. You can push data back and forth, but just so you know, this does require local machines. This requires a local machine that can run it, something that is up to snuff, something that is a Windows-based machine, which I know not all of us have. So those are really kind of the main differences here. And again, we have both. Some other key difference on these things is if you're going to use ArcGIS Online, what it's fantastic for are really basic interactive web maps and really great at displaying what you're doing. So again, this is why it's very popular for, say, our educators and for people who are teaching, because you can get students to get their projects out there very quickly. And so really think about ArcGIS Online. It's fully featured. You can do a lot with it. You can do a lot that's in terms of hosting and communication with it, where as opposed to say ArcGIS Pro, which is really about sitting down in your desktop environment and really just powering through GIS work. Again, you can do a lot of stuff on in the ArcGIS Online, but ArcGIS Pro is more geared towards really intensive geospatial analysis and intensive geospatial work. And it also allows you to do things like massive files that you cannot put on our online instance. So if you have terabytes of LiDAR or massive databases or huge image collections, you're probably going to want to find a way to use ArcGIS Pro in a machine to use that on, as opposed to using ArcGIS Online. Again, some use cases. Think of the online one for teaching, collaborating on simple maps, really displaying and getting data out there. It's also very useful for field data collection. So we have applications like Survey 123, which you can set up to basically input geodata to create really refined databases in the field. Again, ArcGIS Pro, more about sitting down, really trying to do high quality, high product kind of cartography or extremely complex data visualizations. And so you'll see that when you actually, this is a listing of all of the different licenses that we actually have here at UCLA that you can use for your geospatial work. And you'll see here that we have ArcGIS Pro Advanced, that's 3D analysis, that's workflow managers, network analysts. These are all things that have to be done through ArcGIS Pro. The rest of these applications are actually all available online. And that's kind of what we'll be looking at in a little more depth today. If you go to your settings, so if you'll actually, how many of you know where to go for the online access for ArcGIS? No one? All right, that's kind of what I thought. So this is the ArcGIS portal, and you'll see that when you sign on through our single sign-on system, you'll have your name, you'll have really kind of a lot of things to look at here. Go ahead and sign on to this so you can see how you can access the content, you can look at what's actually going on here. And if you look at it, you'll see that we have a drop down here, which lists a lot of our different kinds of applications that are available for you. The other thing that you can do is if you go to content, you'll see that this is where a lot of different items will launch, and that's where we're going to focus today on actually looking at the content that you have and how do you interact with that. And we will be focusing on this today because it is portable, because I want to show you what we have that's available that you can use for both your research and for teaching, and also because I have a Mac and I'm not going to be running Arc Pro at the moment. So for anyone who's affiliated with UCLA, go ahead, click on that link and see if you can sign in. This is the content screen where you'll be adding really a lot of the data that you need to use Esri products here on campus. So does everyone see this screen who has a single sign-on account? Thumbs up or a plus if you can get logged on. Oh, that's great to see that it's working. There's always a question of whether or not it's working. So you'll see that we have, this is your content screen. And there's a lot of things that you can do, but we're going to first go through, and I'm going to show you how you put some kind of data in there to actually just get things started. We'll also show you where you can bring in data that we already have so that you can follow along if you want. So how many of you have ever worked with a CSV file? A couple of you. Yeah, so CSV file, or basically a spreadsheet of like, say, lists of addresses and that kind of thing. So what we can do with those things is we actually have the ability to just upload them directly into the system and to have them show you where these things are located and to actually start building a map. And so what I'm going to show you very quickly is basically how you would do that kind of thing. So I've decided to use a very California example on this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new item. If you have a list of addresses, you can do this, or just follow along, or just look right now for how this works. And what you do is you'll see a screen which will say bring in a new item. And in my case, what I'm going to do is bring in, drag and drop a list of In-N-Out burger locations, because why not? It's before lunch. And you'll see that I have this option of creating a hosted feature layer. This is very, very important for getting your data out there. You always want to select a hosted feature layer or table because you want to have the data that you're uploading and bringing into the system available. And I want to show you this because this is something that not a whole lot of people know, that once you do this, if you have a list like this does of addresses, it analyzes it for you. It tells you here's my fields, what's actually going on here. I have name, street, city, and state. And what's very useful about ArcGIS Online, if I hit next, it'll say that I can have actual locations, that my location information is in multiple fields, that my address is my street field, that my city is my city field. If you had more addresses, if you had states, like region right here, state, you can actually fill this out from this. And you'll see another thing at the bottom here. Credits needed. Now, technically, we have we by default give everybody 1,000 credits, and this is computational time on the system. Don't ever worry about this. If you go over credits, which generally you will not, but if you do, I'll just give you more. We have millions of extra credits that don't get used, and I would love to see all of you use them. So please go forth, use credits, use as many as you want. Don't be afraid of them. We can always give you more. And in this case, if I just hit next, and we'll say In-N-Out 2, and I'll hit save, you'll see that it actually goes through, publishes this thing, And now I have a map. As soon as it gets everything loaded up of all of the in and out burgers locations in Southern California. And so it's really just that easy for you to make a list of addresses. And we'll open up in the map viewer and bring them in. And you'll see now they are, as it loads, all there. There's all of your stuff all geocoded. And that is one of the actual primary tasks that a lot of people ask me about is how do I geocode my data? That's all you need to do. Just get a spreadsheet of it, bring it in and say, here's my fields. And as you can see, it puts everything where it should be, gives you locations of where it is, gives you your pop-ups. It's that simple to bring in data. Any questions so far? No? Fantastic. And so you get data in, you start playing around with a lot of things. You may get a different shape files, you may find different sources of data. If we go back to home, I'm not going to say that because it's not too important to us. You'll see that I've got lots of different content here that is coming from all kinds of different sources. And what you can also do is if you do, say, a new map, let's just do, excuse me, a map here. So everyone just click up on map. You'll see map viewer, and you'll see this is our interface for bringing things in. And let's go ahead and just add, for sake of argument, a different kind of data source. So you'll see if we click on add here, this drop down, and you'll see that we have the Living Atlas and ArcGIS Online. This is access to a lot of different data. And for what I'm going to show you now, let's go to Living Atlas, and we'll search for ferry routes. And this should be, we'll just do any kind of, we'll do North American roads. How's that sound? So let's just put in North American roads for sake of argument. And if we add, so we can go ahead, we can add that. And you'll see that all of the roads in North America will be added to our map. Everyone got that so far? So add layer, Living Atlas. Let's just go for North American roads. One of the troubles with using the Living Atlas is sometimes the data gets moved by ESRI. So in this case, North American roads. Add that and you'll see it's a bunch of things on your map. And that's all fine and good. This is what a lot of people are used to. And let's go ahead and you can save this as some kind, whatever map you'd like to save it as. Let's just save it as an example. And go ahead and feel free to browse and look around and see all the different kinds of data you have. But as you can see, this is a lot of data. And what if you want to move data into something else? If you want to start filtering it, but filtering it all the time? How many of you, again, to show of hands, have data that changes? That you might have, say, geospatial data, or you have research interests where the data set itself might be different from day to day, week to week, year to year. Yeah, I'm seeing some hands there. Yeah, that's a pretty common thing, right? And how many of you who have that situation want to sit down and do the same data transformations all the time to get the same kind of data outputs or the same kind of formats that you want to use or that you have? Probably not a lot of you, right? No one likes to do the same thing over and over and over again. So there's this fantastic thing that is really not well known on ArcGIS Online. And if we go to, let's go to our content. And if we go to new item, you'll see if you scroll down, data pipeline. So go ahead and click on data pipeline. And you'll see a new data pipeline. I'm going to be really creative and call this workshop test because why not? You would probably be a lot more verbose about that. You want to say, what your tags are. You'd probably want to say the summary of what you're doing so you can remind yourself 6 months from now what it is you're actually built. But I'm going to go ahead and hit save just to show you what this is. And so a data pipeline And we go ahead and hit yes for this. We want to look at the editor. You'll see that it'll take a minute or two to connect. It's still connecting. This is always the fun of live demos. You have to pray that the system works. And there we are. So here we are. There's not a lot going on, right? So let's go ahead and look at an input. And you'll see that we've got lots of different inputs that we can use for this data pipeline. You can bring in databases, you can bring in all kinds of things. We can bring in feature layers. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to bring in a feature layer. And we're going to say that we want to pull this from our Living Atlas. And let's go for North America routes again. All right, North American routes. And we're going to go ahead and select our layer. And there we are. Should be able to add the thing. Well, let's do our rail network lines, for instance. And we're going to go ahead and hit add. And what you can do is we have this thing here, and you can double click on it. You can move it around. One thing you can do with it is you can hit run, and it'll give you. Okay, I don't have any outputs. We'll get to that in a second. But what you can do is click on, say, the preview, and it'll show you all the data that we have in this data set. So give it a second to run. But while we're running it, what you can do is if you go to our tools, you can see things like filter by attribute, filter by extent, select fields, all this kind of thing. So let's go ahead and do a filter by attribute. So double click on that, you'll bring it in. And you can see here's our table that finally came up. And let's say that we want to just filter by a state, for instance. So what we would do is we go to our filter by attribute. We would connect this thing over. And if we double click on there, we see our input, North American Rail, and we can build a new query where we're going to do an expression. And we're going to say that we want to, one of the following is true. Let's say our state equals, so we can do, let's just say we want to look at Oregon's rails. Go ahead and hit add. And then what we can do is this will now filter our actual data layer. And then we can output as a new feature layer. So our input data set being the one we just did. And we can see we want our shape. We want to have as you can see here, outputs to, sorry, I have to keep moving these Zoom screens around. It outputs to a folder. I can call it a unique name. We'll just call it Route 1. And what this does is allows me, when I hit run, that it will actually go from this data set, filter it, and create a route. This is a pipeline that I can run as many times as I want. And I can make this extremely complex. I can filter by an attribute, filter by a second one. I can do different joins. I can do 3 or 4 different steps on this. I can filter here. I can have this go to another one. Basically, what this allows me to do is take that changing data, do all the transformations and things that I always want to do with it, and then simply output it into whatever file I want. So everyone with me so far on that? Oh, great. And so what we'll do instead then is go to apps. So please, hopefully tell me that if you click on create apps, that you do see a list like this. All right, good. All right, so at least your user types do have this list. Fantastic. Apps are kind of an interesting thing. What these are really collections of, they're tools for really building ways to distribute and to display the content that you're building. So think of apps as the step that you do after you've done all of your geospatial transformations, your analysis, and your work. This is how you actually get things out of there. And you'll see that there's a lot of choices. If you go ahead and click on Instant Apps, you will see that you have a lot of different options here. And these are all kinds of variations on a theme, that they're showing you different ways of getting data in, different ways of displaying them. This, it would take us hours to go over each one in turn, but what I'm going to do is show you some of the more popular ones. And so what you want to think about before you even begin looking at an app is, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to show with your data and with the communication you're trying to do? Are you trying to show really like just a map? Are you trying to show a scene? Are you trying to show a gallery of data? Each one of those are going to kind of depend on what you want to show here. And as you'll see, it actually walks you through some of that process where I want to make a map with some basic tools for someone to use. I want viewers to interact with the data, to actually shape it or look at it. And so if you click on one of these, it'll narrow down, as you can see. Let's say you want to showcase a map, you want to show one web map, and do you want it to have images? No. And then you've got some basic choices. So it's narrowed it down to 3 or 4 suggestions of apps that you might want to look at. One of the most popular ones of these is the sidebar one that you see coming up here. And just to show you what you do with this thing, if you go ahead and hit choose on that, and as usual, a title, we'll call it Workshop Sidebar, and we'll go ahead and create an app. You'll see the screen for this thing. And again, it's very user-friendly. It'll take you through the Express setup, or you can turn off Express and go into really detailed setups. But for most of the apps that you make, Express is probably good enough. And what you'll do is you'll say, well, I want to show a map of whatever. Select a map. You can get content. You can go to ArcGIS Online. I'm going to show some routes I did between each In-N-Out burger, because why not? So see, I'll have a map. You can give details about your map right there. And then what you do is you hit next, and they'll say you can give it a title. So I would say, like, Workshop Lunch Route, let's say. And you can give it a window that'll introduce the thing. As you can see, it'll pop up. You can give it a title there. You can say what your text is. All kinds of different options here. You can even have, information. You can have let's just do a light bulb. And then you can say, oh, I want to have a legend for my map. I want to turn off the pop-ups. I don't like people clicking on things. And then you can say, you get different options. You can let people search of where they are on your map. And if I hit publish on this thing, let's go next, excuse me. You can select different things, light mode, dark mode, pretty standard things that you can then put around where you want. I would encourage you to, if you want to do this kind of thing, to really look at and explore these options. I'm just giving you, some examples of where they put controls. And then you can have a language switcher, which is multiple translations. And if I hit publish, again, this is a very simple little app. You'll see, now that I've done this, this is what people would see if I gave them the URL, they'd enter in, they'd have the app that has all the information I wanted to give them. If I wanted to give more information about the thing, it would show up there, and they can zoom in, they can look at it, they can see what's actually happening on the map. And so because it's the sidebar, that's where all this information and things live. It's kind of a different format than some of the other ones. So if we did other ones, you would see like an exhibit, for instance. Let's just do X1. Gives you, again, very much the same interface as you'll see pop up here. And a lot of the same selections. We'll just select that one because why not? And again, a lot of the same options, but the interface of the map itself is slightly different. And so these, again, are different ways of stylizing, getting your actual data out there. Those are just some very basic instant apps. And instant apps are really designed to get your data and the things that you're doing out into the world very quickly. So, any questions on those so far? Yeah, I've people have had a lot of success on these and like really showing like a piece of research or showing, hey, here's what my project's about. We have not actually used a lot of instant apps for classroom use yet, but I think you can see how quickly someone can get a map out there. But let's talk about a little more advanced use of apps. Um, well, who here has used an Esri story map before? All right. Esri story maps are extremely popular in terms of teaching and getting out research. In fact, even they're even used for government functions. Some of our local California government agencies use story maps to display their maps and to display what they're trying to talk about. And so if we go to Create App, and if you go to ArcGIS Story Maps, you'll see an interface that'll come up, and you'll see that again that it tries to talk you through and walk you through a lot of this process. And what a story map is think of it as the next step up from an instant app. This is you have a lot more customization, you have a lot more ability to bring in different kinds of maps, different kinds of resources, and really make a more coherent presentation, a more advanced presentation. I teach with story maps because they're very user friendly and they students produce really high quality work with story maps. So this is the screen that you'd get for that, and you'd see that you have a lot of options here. You can put in story titles, you can add this tell me your story, and when we do that, it gives you the option to put in things like text or buttons that you can go to different parts of it. It does have some code, but you can put in your maps, your charts, infographics, these kind of things. So if I put in a map, we'll just use my example map again. I have the options to turn on whatever layers I want, turn them on or off. I can go back and edit my map in ArcGIS. And I have, again, I have different settings here. I can turn on search, legend, location, all kind of different. We'll turn on the search option. So see that somebody could search for this. And if I hit save, it then becomes part of this story map. And I can put in different text and things there. I can also put in, you'll see here, immersive things like a sidecar. This is an extremely popular one that a lot of students do, where you can say, let's do a floating one. And on that, I can add a map. We'll add a different map. Why not? And you'll see that's the map below. And on this, I can add text. And I can keep adding other things. I can add another map. We'll do a 3D of UCLA. Why not? And so, really, and so you can tell a story. And the idea is that this is one flowing document from top to bottom that you go through. You have different maps that people can interact with. Here you have like a different story. Maybe you have a different map here. I could have another map that this fades into. So I just hit that plus, and I'll do another map here. Let's fade that into, I don't know, that one. Why not? So you'll see how when you scroll on that, that goes up, that goes down, that fades. You can talk about different things. I can put in links to YouTube videos. I've seen people put in links to 360 videos, to drones, to different websites. You can embed code. Basically, almost anything that you can do swipes, so you can compare images, as you see there. You can even embed some of your ArcGIS apps that you've made. So if you have an app that you want to put together as part of a larger story map, you can do that. And so this is really a extremely useful thing. And let's go ahead and you can see how it would look published. And we'll just go ahead and publish this as a private thing. And you can then send it out. I can send it to people. Let's just view how that would look published. Again, this is terrible, done in like 2 minutes, but you see, this is a story map. This is what the interface would be for people to look at it. It would be a fully fledged website that shows the data or the research. I just had two students actually last year who did story maps and got them accepted to the uh, LA GIS Festival. So this is, again, something that a lot of people are using and something that's very effective. The downside to story maps is they're not portable. So if you make them here at UCLA, you're going to want to back up your data because after you leave, we're not going to be keeping these things up in perpetuity. They will go down. And so it's a really nice thing. We can have it up as long as you're affiliated with the university. But after you leave, you'll want to pull down your data. You'll want to put this back up probably somewhere else. Any questions on that so far? Great. And the story maps, the other nice thing about them is they're very easy to learn. I just showed you right here by clicking quickly how you can add data to them. Teaching them in a classroom, basically 1 or 2 class sessions, I've found that 99% of the students are able to create very effective class maps. Again, just 2 sessions into learning about them. So I highly, highly recommend um, story maps as a tool that you can use. Right. So no questions so far. Let's go for something that's even a step up from that. And if we do go back to our Create app, you'll see that we have an experience builder and a web app builder. Now, you may want to say, let's make a web app. But you'll see that we have a warning. It's retiring. Don't build any web apps anymore. It's going to be a mess. What you want to do now is something called the experience builder. And go ahead and fire that thing up. And let's go ahead and create a new experience. And you'll see that there's a lot of more options here because what this is building an actual full-on web application that, as you saw from from apps, it's very small, very quick. From story maps, it's like one solid scrolling object. Here, you're actually making a fully fledged website based on your Esri geodata. So this is one that not a lot of people are using here yet. It's fairly new, but it's really a great way, again, of creating a very professional demonstration of your data, of your research, of your teaching, whatever you want to do, using these Esri web applications. And so you can see they have different kinds of templates. They have different helpers to help you along with this process. And I would just encourage you to take a look and take a tour and see what actually appeals to you. Because again, default, we could do even a blank one. If you just said like, let's do a blank full screen, for instance. Here you'd see now that this is our full screen, and we can add different things. We can add maps to it. We can add base maps to it. We can add different pages. You can see how this will look on different devices on your live preview, so you can make sure that it's responsive and showing that what you actually want it to show. And so you can see that you can have print options. This is actually something a lot of people want, believe it or not. They want to be able to print a web map, and just putting this button on there will make your application or your research a lot more accessible to a lot of people than you really know. And so you've got animation options, you've got body options, you've got all kinds of really interesting settings that you can use. So this is really a full-on web development suite that is integrated into all of our geospatial products. So you can pull in all of your data, you can pull in all of your maps, all of your applications, anything you do can be part of this, what they call an experience, which you then publish as a website. And again, we are hosting all of that through UCLA, so you don't have to worry about finding a host or anything like that. It'll generate the URL. You can share the URL. We will be in charge of the hosting. All right. So there, you also might want to, let's say, just check your data quickly and look at and make something that's more for your use, or maybe something that you eventually want to share in terms of a data dashboard. And this is something else that people ask a lot about, and we really have not been developing too much here. So I just wanted to make you aware of it, and we're going to walk through how to actually make a data dashboard. So this is another way of, say, looking at your changing data, putting it on a screen and being able very quickly to see what's happening without actually, having to go through, check your tables, look at your tables, republish your tables, and do all those steps. This becomes much like a data pipeline, a really contained way of looking at data. And so hopefully everyone has access to this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a data dashboard as part of this workshop, and maybe that'll give you an idea of how to use it for your own data. So let's go ahead, and if we go and we click on Create App and click on Dashboards, please tell me that you have dashboards. Yes. All right. Great. That means I don't have to adjust user types for dashboards. So let's go ahead and we'll type in, we'll call this, again, Workshop Dashboard because I'm being creative. And if we go ahead and hit Create Dashboard, you'll see that we have this screen that you can actually look at learning how to create it. You can look at different galleries. We're just going to go ahead and hit the plus, and we're going to create a new dashboard right now. And we're going to do that with, we're going to start it out with a map because this is geospatial things. And so what we want to do is let's look at, we can look at shared content, we can look at my content, and let's go ahead and make actually a map for our dashboard before we even do anything else here. So go ahead and hit cancel. And we're going to make a map for our thing. So hit this little hamburger icon, as people call it, and go to content. And then from there, we're going to make a new map. We're going to make a map of actual charging stations, believe it or not. And we're going to go through looking at how you select different ones of those. Actually, the easiest way, let's just go to map. And you'll see it'll take a second for us to get our map viewer up. We're going to add a layer. We're going to go to our Living Atlas. And we are going to look for Canada charging stations. Does everyone see that? Add a layer. Gonna add. Go to Living Atlas and search for Canada charging stations. Right there, and right there it is. Electric charging stations in Canada. And we're going to go ahead and hit add. And you'll see them all show up. And we can just keep the defaults on because we're just going to show how to do a dashboard. And does everyone have that out of the data? All right. Again, if I'm going too fast or if you want me to repeat a step, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. So now we're going to save it, and you'll see this little blue button by our save and open. Let's go ahead and save this as, and we're going to call this workshop dash, just so we can find it easily. And go ahead and hit save. And so this would be like the data source you're bringing in or the data that you want to look at. Again, if we get the pipeline working for you guys, this could be something that you export out from a pipeline to put into a dashboard so you can actually see what's going on with your data. And so let's go now back to home. We'll go to our content. And we will now go to our dashboard I just created, which should be empty. And if we hit edit, you'll see our plus. Go ahead and click the plus, add a map, and add the map we just did. And you see that we can bring in things. If you want to bring these in, like I always like to have a compass, because why not? And just hit done. You'll see there's our map, there's our data. Not too exciting, right? Does everyone have this so far? All right, and we'll just go ahead and hit save. You will want to hit save constantly when working with any Esri product, because crashing happens often, actually. So let's go ahead. We have our map. And now let's start adding a few things. So you'll see that this plus sign here, add element. So go ahead and click on that, and you'll see that you have on each one of these screens places to add something. So let's go to the bottom here, click on the plus, and you'll see a list come up. And these are different things that we can put into our dashboard. In our case, we're going to put in something called an indicator. So go ahead and click on indicator. And what this is you'll see that we have our layer. And that if we click on that, what this is a count. And so it says that there are 15.9 thousand stations here. And you can count you can do a count, you can do an average, minimum, maximum. So you could say like maybe your data has gallons per minute about something. Maybe it has the amount of people that go through something. Maybe it has the amount of time spent on something, and you want minimum and maximum, whatever you want. Here we're just going to do a count, and we're going to count by whatever your field is. In our case, we know FID is unique. Maybe you have a different field that you counted for your own data. And so those are the two things that you can run there. And then you'll see that you could have your indicator here, and we can add an icon to it. So we can make this look nice because, maybe you want to. So let's go ahead, click that, click miscellaneous, and let's just say this. There we go. We've got a nice little icon next to it. And you can change things like your icon, its position, its fill, its outline. Let's make it green. Why not? There you go. Making your dashboard look a little bit nicer. You can add text to it. You can say, like, we'll say on the bottom here, operational stations. So now you can see we're starting to build a UI for this dashboard we're creating. Everyone with me so far on that? We've added an indicator. The indicator we're making sure is doing a count of things, and now we're just styling it ever so slightly. All right. Then if you hit done, you'll see that it shows up there. And what we can do is this, so that's not quite so big on your dashboard. So that gives us a count of how many stations. That's great. Let's have some more details about it, right? So if we go back here, and let's add something else. We'll add another element, and we'll add it to here. See where I'm down now? And now let's add a table. Again, the table is that we're going to use our charging stations. And what we can do is we can say what we want to do for our features and what fields do we want to add. Let's do what kind of fuel they have. You'll see that shows up. We can add by, how about a street address? That's pretty cool. Let's do a state as well. And who knows, maybe whatever thing you would want, maybe access, if it's public or not. Again, you can change your table up. You can add different kinds of elements to it. You can have different kinds of styling to it. But I just want to show you generally how you build one of these things. Then you just simply hit done. And does everyone have something that looks like this? You've got a list of all of your stations. You've got a count of them all. Oh, all right, great. And so the next thing we're going to do then is maybe you want to get information about one of these stations. So we'll add an element and we'll add it to the side here. And what we can do is we can add details. And again, we'll add details from our station. And you can add, as you'll see here, this pops up. You can set which ones you want to have, which ones you don't. We're just going to go with the default so you see what's happening. And then let's make that a little bit smaller. And now you're starting to get an idea of, hey, all right, we've got a setup here for a dashboard. We've got a map, we've got stations, we've got information, and we've got details. And that's all pretty cool. But there's a lot more that you can do with this thing. So let's go ahead and let's add an element. And if you see down here, there's an expansion. And that just helps you see what you're doing. And we're going to add an element up here. We're going to call this a header. All right. And we're just going to call it a dashboard. That's fine. And you'll see that it shows up here, workshop dashboard. Everyone's got that? Because then what you can do is if we click on that and we add an element to our workshop dashboard, let's see this thing called category selector, number selector, and date selector. We're going to do a category selector. And in that category selector, you're going to see that there's not a lot that we can do because we don't actually have a category to select. This is how we're going to start selecting the data behind this and say breaking this up. So we have all of this wonderful data here, but we don't really have a way of filtering any of it. And you might find yourself in this kind of situation when you're actually trying to build a data dashboard. They've put things together. You started to put your data in a way that makes sense to you, but now you want to do a little bit more with it. You want to actually start dividing it up. And so what we would do in this case is let's add something to our base map. So if we go back to our content, or if we actually just go to our map here, workshop dash, you'll see that it comes up with the original map we did. Let's add a layer to it so that we can actually do some filtering. So if we go to add, and let's go back to, again, Living Atlas, now let's put in provinces from Canada. And you'll see provinces and territories of Canada. So let's go ahead and add that. And you'll see that they show up on the map. And so what we'll do is we'll save this. And you'll see a little message there saying that your data has been saved. And now if we go back up here, we go back to our content, and we go back to our dashboard, and we go ahead and hit edit, you'll see that our map itself has been updated. Now, this is really important. Whenever you update a base map, things like dashboards, all of your apps, everything that you're using to display your stuff will be updated as well. And in our case, what we did this for was that we want to add an element here and click on that plus. We want to do a category selector, and we want to do categories from our features, and we want to do this from our provinces. Everyone see that? And so we're saying that our layer is our provinces and our field values. I'm going to put it down here. Is what we're going to do is do this based on the abbreviation. All right, so we're saying that our data source, we're looking for each feature, and we're looking at it for, in our case, of the field ID. And what happens is, if we would go ahead and click on Done, you would see now selected category, and you'd see that these are the provincial um, basically the abbreviations. And you can select each one of those. Nothing happens yet because I haven't done an action, but I want to show you that that's what this is. So go ahead, click back on your gear, and go ahead and then click on the filter. So now we want to do actions. We want to say when the selection changes, and you'll see that we have options here. So when our selection changes, let's go ahead and change our different elements of our dashboard. So we can change our map. We can change our table as well. And we can change our indicator. And what we do is we say that our source field, this is from our abbreviation from our that we're filtering, and our target field, which is whatever this happens to be. So that's state. If we do that for each one of these, okay, where is it? State. And again, our abbreviation and our state. What we're telling the system is, for this field, when it changes, filter it by all of these things. And we want to say, for us, render only when filtered. So go ahead and hit done. And when you select a category, now you'll see that the dashboard changes all of the information. There's none there. You'll see 2.8 thousand stations there, and so on. This is something that I've spent a lot of time on because it's something that people really don't use, but is actually something that is incredibly helpful and incredibly useful for you to actually look at your data. So that is how you build this is a very quick one, but this is a data dashboard that allows someone to select and do all this. Why do you care? Well, you can look at it, but what you can also do is you can publish this dashboard. So let's go ahead and hit save. And we can sign out. We can do all kinds of wonderful things with our dashboard here. In terms of getting it out of there, you now have, you can share your data dashboard just like you would any other resource. So if we go to our content, and you see my dashboard come up now, I could make this share with everyone, for instance. If I hit share, if I hit preview, let's see here. Actually, we'll just go to this and we'll open the dashboard here. You'll see that I now have this URL. And if I click that, that'll view the URL. And this is what I can share with the world. This is my running dashboard. And so again, a great way for you to share our data out to maybe if you have collaborators of things that you want to show the geospatial data you're working on. This is the kind of link that you can show them. They can click on it. You can really set up some fantastic looking dashboards. This is just a very quick way of doing it. So any questions on that so far? All right. So I've shown you a lot of ways of actually getting data out there, but what about working with it a little bit more? This is something, again, a show of hands, who has worked with Jupyter notebooks or R notebooks before? Nobody. All right, one of you. All right. Some of you have. All right, so Jupyter notebooks, R notebooks, they're fantastic. And guess what? They are built into ESRI now. So if you go to notebooks, I already have one, but if you can, I'll just open this up to show you. You can go ahead and click on a new notebook. I've got a little more code here, so I just wanted to demonstrate it. And you will, as soon as this thing loads up, be in extremely familiar territory. These are essentially Jupyter notebooks that are built in to ESRI Online. So you don't have to worry about signing in with them. You don't have to worry about opening up different resources. You don't have to worry about the API for Esri. You just simply open up the notebook and you can do all the stuff that you would normally do in terms of Jupyter Python development here, if it would actually load. I wonder if a new notebook's any faster. Yeah, let's just do a new notebook while we're waiting for the other one. And you'll see that it's, just like you would do any other kind of thing. So a new notebook tells you to run this. You are now part of the GIS, and you can do all kinds of interesting things. I can add a map. And look, it does the Python for me. I run that. I get the item content up there. As soon as it runs, you can do analysis on it. So you can run you can run the summarized data. You can add different kinds of tools, find locations, analyze terrain. You can do all these kinds of things in a Pythonic environment now, which is great because you can also do things like, import pandas as PD. And guess what? Pandas is now loaded in there. So this is an environment for those of you who are used to using Python or are different kinds of computational environments built in directly into Arc Online. And not a lot of people know about this yet. And so this is really, again, kind of a new thing to approach and a new way of looking at our data. And so with that, you may start noticing some other things down here, like deep learning. Esri, in addition to having all of these wonderful Pythonic things, is also rolling out a lot of AI-based neural network kind of analysis. And guess what? You have licenses and the ability to run all of this. And so you could run it from, say, a Python environment here, like detect objects using deep learning, and you'll see that we have you import the thing and you run whatever parameters you need. Now, what's kind of cool about this, and I'll show you a little bit about some of these things, is that you have a lot of options in terms of Esri and AI. And just let me show you some of the highlights of that. So in terms of AI, they do have things on ArcGIS Pro. So you can, if you're using, again, the standalone desktop option, use that, install it, and run it. You can also use all of it on ArcGIS Online. So what I just showed you in terms of the notebook, if you know about machine learning or deep learning, you can use things like TensorFlow or PyTorch or different kinds of those utilities that actually do all of that within that environment. And it really allows you to do a lot of interesting work. And what we're experimenting on here is actually putting some of these tools onto the Hoffman computing cluster. So we're actually experimenting with using the Esri AI applications, putting them on our high performance machines so we can really try to even access those more. And we'll basically keep watching this space as we get those things online, as we actually work with them. You'll be able to basically take your Pythonic code that you're working on ArcMap Online, bring that onto Hoffman, and use the same kinds of tools there, and probably an increase in speed and flexibility. And so I just want to show you these three as kind of an option on that. And so where do you actually go with this stuff? I will not run it live simply because it takes a lot of time, but to show you a couple parts of this that I've already run on here. So if I go back to my content, which is probably going to yell at me for not saving my page, but there you go. You'll see that I have down here wind turbine detection, turbine detection. What this is a deep learning package. And so I took what they had, which was in their case a deep learning image detection for wind turbines, which you can use and you can actually pull down and then put back up. So how this works is you select whatever one of their pre-trained models you want, and there are hundreds of pre-trained models. And these models are very interesting, in some cases very specific. They have a pre-trained model for swimming pool detection in Australia for aerial imagery. They have pre-trained models for wind turbine detection. They have ones for different kinds of vegetation. And you would select whatever model you want, you download it, and then you put it back up under you in this workspace. And then from there, you take the model and you run it with whatever data input that you want. In this case, what I had was, well, let me bring this back up. So I had the learning package and the turbine detection. If we open a map viewer, it was an image of wind turbines. You'll see these come up here. And so if you look closely at this image, you'll see that it has a fair number of these things. And by putting that image in, by then running, which you can do in the map, if you click on analysis, you will see that we have tools, and we could do things like deep learning. There we go. Classify objects, detect change. These are all different kinds of pre-trained models that they have. And by running those pre-trained models, I was able to, let's see if they have them on here. Here we are. You will see each one of these features is where it detected an actual windmill, and it did basically the spatial footprint of it, put them exactly in there, extracted them out. So now I have a vector layer, which has, and here it tells you that it is 99.99% confident that it detected a wind turbine in that location. So you get the footprint, you get the confidence, and you get the actual vector location of what it is you're looking at. And this is really a massive breakthrough, and it is something that is accessible to all of you right now, today. You can go, you can look at the different kinds of models they have, the different kinds of pre-trained ones, and determine what's best for your research or for your teaching or whatever you want to use it for. And for those of us who've worked with a lot of GIS, has anyone here just painstakingly traced like rivers or buildings or features on the ground, just taken hour after hour of clicking and tracing and clicking and tracing? This replaces a lot of that. This actually does a lot of that work in minutes that would generally take you hours to do. And it costs credits, but you know what? You almost will never get to your limit. And if you do, you simply email us and I give you thousands of more credits. So this is something that is really a tool for us to use here at UCLA that's really underutilized. I don't think a lot of people know about it yet, but it is there. And one of the things that is really kind of useful for all of this is another thing you may not know about is with our subscriptions, you actually have access to the ESRI Academy. So the ESRI Academy, let me just put up a little slide for that. This provides a lot of training. It gives you a lot of resources. It gives you a lot of hands-on self-directed tutorials about everything that we've talked about today, about thousands of more applications and ways of doing things. These are ones they normally sell to commercial providers. We have them as access through UCLA. So if any of these things have actually been interesting to you today, if you want to follow up on it or look a little bit more on it, what you can do is you can, well, one, email us. We'll make another workshop if there's enough interest, like if everyone's interested in using, say, the neural net software and the AI work, we'll put on another workshop about that. In the meantime, you can look here and you can find out a lot of different training materials. You can get nifty certificates that you can print up and put on your refrigerator too if you want. It's all right there. And so that's really just kind of an overview of really some of the tools that are highly useful but very underutilized here at UCLA. And so I realize this is kind of a whirlwind tour, and it was a little bit technical in terms of making like a dashboard, but really the objective here is that you can get started not just producing the things that you're looking at, but sharing them, displaying them, really moving whatever geospatial ideas you have kind of into the next level. And again, if you're interested in these topics, if there's more things that you want to learn, please email us. We will set up additional workshops or different opportunities to really teach and connect with you guys about what it is you're looking for and what it is that we can offer here at UCLA.